Right, hello everyone. Just a quick tutorial video here. Nothing scripted at all. I feel like there are little bits of information that I may give you that I wouldn't probably give you if the video was scripted. So I have a topic in mind of what I want to speak about, and I kind of have had a look at the chart and I know exactly kind of the examples that I'm going to give. Okay, so I'm going to talk about accumulation in both sides of the market, so accumulation and distribution, okay, and how that plays a massive part into a trend, and how you can pretty much use the easy in, easy out strategy to kind of determine if a market is trending and how strong that trend is, what levels need to be tested if the market is trending, and what needs to happen on those retests. Okay, so we're just going to use Bitcoin here as the example. So in a trending market, as I'm sure most of you already know, it will consist of higher lows and higher highs. Okay. So like this, we'll see a higher low and higher highs. Okay, but where should you enter, and how do you know that price is not going to retrace or reverse? How do you know that we're not going to pull a move like this, like we saw here? Okay, or how do you know that price isn't going to reverse? All right. So how to read a trend. A trend ultimately just consists of higher highs and higher lows. Okay, but we need to look at what price actually does when we see the higher lows. What does price look like? Okay, really we want to see accumulation at these levels to kind of prove that price is in fact going to continue in the direction of the trend. Okay, so first we need to look at how a trend starts. So normally we have a level of consolidation. Okay, so something like this, where we'll see an obvious range forming. Okay, then you want to see manipulation. Sorry about that. Then after the manipulation, you want to see reaccumulation. So it goes consolidation, manipulation, reaccumulation, all using the easy in, easy out pattern. Okay, if you don't know what this is, quickly jump over onto another YouTube video. I think I explain the pattern at the start of every YouTube video, so just check that out. Essentially, it's just a head and shoulders, but yeah, just go look at those videos. So at the start of a trend, we have our consolidation, manipulation, reaccumulation after the manipulation. Okay, and then this generally is what the start of a trend will look like. Okay, so then we continue up from here. Right, and now I don't normally promote or tell anyone that they should try to get in at the reaccumulation or even at the manipulation. Okay, I suggest that you wait for the retrace and the confirmation of a trend. Now, what would that look like? Okay, we would get a move back into support. Now, instead of just leaving your limits here at the support level and hoping that price is going to continue up, what I do personally using my strategy is I wait for another kind of like reaccumulation to occur at the support level. Okay, so in a trending environment, you want to see these things. 1. Obvious manipulation that starts the trend. Okay. Let me just turn this down a bit. Okay. Sorry if that was too loud. Okay. Obvious manipulation that starts the trend. And then you want to see price revisit the manipulation and reaccumulate. Okay. Then after that reaccumulation, you want to see an expansion away. Okay, and then after that expansion, you then want to see further signs of reaccumulation. Okay, so like what I'm explaining here, you have the consolidation, the manipulation, the reaccumulation, the expansion away, and then you want to see further signs of reaccumulation. Now, you don't just want to see reaccumulation at resistance. So let's say the previous trend started around this level. Let me just move this really quick. You don't want to see signs of accumulation here and enter here, because what is a common rule that most of you should know is that you shouldn't necessarily be buying into resistance or selling into support. So if you were to look for the broken base pattern or signs of reaccumulation here, you're just buying into resistance. What you want to do is look for a retracement back into the previous levels of accumulation. So rather than buying into resistance, you want to wait for a retracement back into the previous levels of accumulation. Okay, so don't buy into resistance, wait for the retracement back into the levels of accumulation, and wait for further accumulation. And then this is kind of how you will be able to pick up if price is actually trending hard. Is what you will see is you'll see retracements back into the levels of accumulation and price will just reaccumulate, basically telling you that there is demand at these levels. Really, because breaking down every single price action strategy, all we are really doing is trading support, resistance, supply, and demand. Is there demand at a level? How can you tell if there is demand at a level? Personally, I use this strategy, but other people may use indicators or moving averages or whatever it is. But personally, this is what I use. So rather than buying into resistance, you want to wait for a retracement back into the previous levels of accumulation where you can then look to buy. Okay. So I gave an example of what the start of a trend should look like, but I spoke about earlier how we may see moves like this, where we see the higher high being made and we go to look for the lower low, but instead of forming a lower low and continuing up, we fall back below this low. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the trend is changing and that we're seeing reversal. It may just mean we have that we need to manipulate the market in order for the bigger players to enter more positions. So how do we know that price is either going to test the level, reaccumulate, and form a lower low, or is price going to break below the previous low and reaccumulate? Well, you need to look at the previous leg. So if you look here, you'll see that there's accumulation at the previous leg, right here. So it makes sense that if we are in a trending market, we would reaccumulate at the previous accumulation. But if we take a look at this example, which I did call live, this isn't hindsight, I did call these levels if you want to go back, look at my Twitter. If we go and look at this whole leg up here, Where's the accumulation? There is none. There's nothing but equal lows below here. So it's of no surprise that we came down and we swept these levels before, you guessed it, reaccumulating in here. So if the previous leg doesn't hold any obvious accumulation, then you should assume that price can and should move below that previous leg. Now, if we move below the previous leg and start to reaccumulate, that's a sign that the move below the previous leg was in fact manipulation. But if we move below the previous leg and fail to reaccumulate, then we're heading lower. So in this example, we are retesting this area of support, taking out these levels, and then we reaccumulate here. So if we take a look, price moves below these lows, we get a break above the resistance or the highs that were responsible for sweeping the low, and then we continue to reaccumulate like we were seeing right here. Okay, now let's look at how obvious this previous leg was, again called live on my Twitter. So we have the manipulation that occurred, we then come down, sweep below, we reaccumulate. Now ideally, if we want to see this trend continue, we need to see reaccumulation at the previous accumulation, which is what we saw right here. So rather than buying into resistance, like here's our resistance level and here's the broken base pattern that you could have been trading. Yes, it's a valid entry according to like the pattern, but you're buying into resistance, which is just against common sense, right? So what you really want to be doing is looking for reaccumulation at the previous leg of accumulation. If we do see that reaccumulation, that tells us that price is in fact going to continue the trend, which again is exactly what we saw and was exactly what I called live. Just so you know, I'm not cherry picking this. Okay, so we reach back into the previous level and we continue to accumulate. Right. So just some pretty basic market structure stuff here. So price breaks through resistance, we retest support. We break through resistance, we retest support. If you're trading the trend, these are the kind of things that you want to see, okay, to kind of confirm if price is in fact going to continue the trend or start to reverse. No worries. So I think this went on for about 13 minutes. Hopefully I didn't repeat myself too much. There was really no actual plan, but I feel like if you had your notepad and pen out, there is a fair bit of information that you could have pulled from this. No worries. Anyway, thanks guys. Bye bye.